What is up, film and photography friends? We are trekking up the beautiful Flagstaff Mountain just above Boulder, Colorado. It is a crisp Friday evening in the Rocky Mountains in the Front Range. The snow has blanketed the forests of Flagstaff and the outlying mountains of Boulder. We're traveling up here to get some beautiful sunset colors on the forests, the snow, and the Indian peaks from the summit of Flagstaff. So trek with me up the mountain and we'll see what beautiful stuff we get. So one thing I've noticed is there's a lot of photographers out here on Flagstaff at the moment. It's the middle of golden hour, which means that it is an absolutely beautiful time to take photos, especially up in the mountains, because the sun is just starting to drop below the horizon and it's throwing these beautiful magentas and blues and purples and all sorts of different colors onto the landscape, the clouds, whatever subjects you're photographing. So it's a beautiful time to be out here. And one of the things that they're photographing is this beautiful view from behind the first flat iron above Boulder, Colorado. Is that not beautiful or what? That right down there, that main road stretching right there, is actually a road called Baseline. It runs straight through Boulder. My dorm that I live in on campus at the University of Colorado at Boulder is right off of that, and that is actually the 40th parallel of the Earth. So if you're going along the parallels from the equator up to the North Pole, that is exactly the 40th parallel. That's why it's called Baseline. And it runs straight to where I am. So currently, I am standing on the 40th parallel of the Earth, which is pretty cool. If you look up at night, the star straight above you on the 40th parallel is called Vega. And if you are interested in astronomy or ancient astronomy and what ancient astronomers use to navigate, or ancient sailors or whatnot, the star directly above you on the parallel or your location on the Earth is called the Fonakanga. So if you look up in Boulder on the 40th parallel, no matter where you are on the 40th parallel in the northern hemisphere, Vega will be your Fonakanga. So you look up the constellation Lyra, and Vega will be right there. So it's a pretty cool little piece of advice. If you're at night, just look up and look at your Fonakanga. We've got some fog coming over the mountaintop up there. And essentially what I'm going to do is just photograph that dropping over the ridge, and as it gets colder outside, the sun starts to drop, those clouds will lower because the warm air will start to rise. So what I'm doing with this composition is shooting the landscape with 3 degrees of foreground, middle ground, background, and the lower third, the middle third, and the upper third. And what this allows me to do is give a sense of depth for the photograph. So in the bottom third, we're using the rocks, the boulders right here in front of me, which you can see right here on the left of the screen. In the middle, we're using the shadows of the mountain. And in the top third, we're going to use the top of the mountain with the clouds rolling over and the color in the sky. And essentially this gives us a sense of depth and should make a pretty good picture. We're also exposing for the highlights. So by exposing for the highlights, this allows us to not worry about having to pull down highlights or overexposing the highlights, which is a pain in post-production or post-processing. But what this does is allows me to use the dynamic range of the raw file format of the camera to bring up the shadows, which is easier than the highlights, bringing down the highlights, to create an image perfectly exposed the way I want it. It's kind of weird. If you were taking a JPEG, you'd want to expose for the best of the frame, or if you were shooting film, you would expose for the best light of the frame, the best exposure, so you don't have to worry about doing it in post-processing. But for me, as an artist, a fine art photographer, an artist photographer, what I like to do is take it for how I know I'm going to edit it in post-production or post-processing. I'm a film major, so I say everything's post-production. But essentially, expose for the highlights is what I do. That way, I can pull them down as much as I need to without worrying about overexposing them or burning the highlights and then pulling up the shadows and making the perfect image. So that's what we're doing with this photograph right now, but I think I've got everything I need to get with it, and we'll head up the mountain. We are still heading up Flagstaff. We're not too far away from the summit right now. And man, oh, look at that, rockfall. Just got some successful photos down there. Some people came down and unfortunately ruined it. It was pretty peaceful until they came, but nonetheless, still a pretty good trip so far. Just a quickie. Quick little run up the mountain. Shouldn't be too long of an episode, but it is gorgeous. I'm gonna get up for sunrise tomorrow too, so if you watch later or watch tomorrow or throughout the weekend, I'll probably be putting out another one of these episodes. So stay tuned and we'll see what other stuff I can get. It's starting to snow up here, unfortunately. The Indian peaks have become obscured by snow and snowfall with heavy clouds, so that's not the best because they're obscured, but I'm looking for other scenery, other subjects, macro, landscape, nature, wildlife, hopefully, but currently haven't seen much, just driving along the road because it's almost nighttime, so there's no use in going out and doing a long hike. So I found this beautiful scene. There's this gorgeous little lake up here on top of Flagstaff on the way to a gross reservoir. And right now, the way the lighting is, the flat light from the cloud cover that's overhead and the soft snow falling is casting this beautiful, really soft, really ethereal reflection onto the pond that's somewhat covered in ice. Unfortunately, there's a fence and no trespassing signs, so I can't photograph it from as close as I'd like to be. But check that out. Gorgeous reflection right on the lake. It's going to make a beautiful composition. I'm going to lay the top of the trees on the top third line and the bottom of the trees on the bottom third line right there. Those are going to be on the bottom. I'm using the Nikon ED AF Nikkor 80-200 f2.8 lens, and I'm going to use it probably around 150-200 focal length just to get closer to that shot. Well, I think that's going to be it for today. There just wasn't enough light up there to keep going. The sun dropped behind the ridge a lot faster than I was anticipating just because of the snow. It usually doesn't drop that fast. The snowfall over the Indian Peaks moved into the area really quickly, and it kind of hindered any photographs that I could have taken at this point. But I think we got some good stuff. I keep saying we. I mean there's no one with me this time. Most of the time when I do these, there won't be anyone. So if I say we, just bear with me. That's a habit. But I think I got some good photos today. And journey on. Give me a like on Instagram. Give me a like on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube to make this content keep coming. I want to start making this a regular thing, so the more followers, the more info I get, the better we get a reach to a greater audience, and the better these videos will get. So, as always, journey on and look for the great composition. See y'all later.